Hi again. I want to start with that I had this video ready for a couple of weeks, but things came up. I had to study for my exams and I was swamped with other work, so this was on hold for a little while. But here it is, number 8 of Peachtober with the prom crown. The end result turned out very special for me, and I will get into that later. Starting from the beginning, I struggled so much with the ideation phase. Nothing felt right as a motif. I don't know why I make it so difficult for myself, because it feels like I struggle with this phase in almost every prompt. I'm pretty harsh at this stage. I often don't want to paint inanimate objects, because I just don't feel so inspired by that. And many of the prompts were nouns of inanimate objects, so yeah. I did consider painting a crown made of flowers, but I didn't want to have the crown being on top of another human head because I just painted the top of a human head for the 4th prompt. So I guess much of it boils down to me wanting variation between my motifs, and that is pretty hard. After much contemplation, an idea formed in my head, and I sat down to sketch it immediately. As with a bunch of my ideas, I rarely have a clear vision of what I want to end up with, so I'll go with the flow once I start mixing colors. The idea that I got was to honor my grandma who passed away last year, because she was a queen to our family. She meant a lot to me, and I miss her still. One of her many qualities that I so admire was her ability to bring the whole family together. And this motif aims to capture just that. I believe what we had within our family was magical, and that is also the feeling I was striving for with the hazy colors and the magical forest. The subjects and the motifs are my grandma with her crown, because she's the queen, as I said, and then plenty of smaller mushrooms, which represent me and my many cousins. Honestly, I'm not sure why I happened to draw everyone as mushrooms. I guess it was a subconscious pull from it being autumn while I was ideating, but it could also be that I rarely enjoy painting realistic human faces. They're very difficult to get right. Anyhow, the time for music has come, so I will zip my mouth for a while. To get these hazy colors, I use a lot of wet in wet technique, which means I wet the paper first, so the pigment gets evenly dispersed across the wet area, and I just love this effect so much. In this painting, I also do multiple layers of wet in wet to build up the intensity of the spectra and to contrast against the lighter subjects that are the mushrooms. I've also been very fond of glowing things, so to make this painting even more magical, I added a glow to the mushrooms. Because of this choice, I couldn't mask off the mushrooms with masking fluid. That would have cut a lot of time spent on this painting, because instead I had to work myself around the mushrooms with my brush, careful not to accidentally cover the lighter area of the mushrooms. That's the limitation of watercolor. You can't make an area lighter than it is, so you'll have to 1. Paint from light to dark, and 2. Preserve the light area somehow, either through masking fluids or like painting around the area just like I did. But what I'm doing now is basically building up the background before I move on to the details, so I'll put on nice music again. And here comes the details, many hours later. Painting the background took a long time because of the buildup, avoiding the mushrooms, and me wanting to blend the colors seamlessly with each other. But hey, it was definitely worth it, and patience is a virtue. For the tree, I employed the same technique as the last prompt to achieve the texture, since it was such a success last time, and it brings more depth to the painting in my opinion. I remember being scared at this point because I had invested so much time into perfecting the background, and it's definitely not easy to start over again, but I had to do it. Otherwise I would have an unfinished painting, and we can't have that here. I'm so glad that I have achieved that mentality. I can assure you I would not have added any details to the tree a couple of years back for fear of failure, because if you don't try, you can't fail, but you can't succeed either. So every time I push through my fears, I get a little stronger, and this is my meager effort to share my motivation with you guys, including future me. Look at the mushrooms, they're so cute. I especially like how I managed to visually communicate who the queen is, besides her little crown on her cap, by adding more texture, or wrinkles, to make it clear that she's the older one compared to her grand mushrooms. And speaking of grand mushrooms, I just adore the expression that we can see here, because that is totally what I felt when seeing my grandma. I also like that all the mushrooms look spongy, because they are. When I finished this painting, I felt so proud and happy, and I will cherish this piece for a very, very long time. Thank you all for watching. This is the longest video by far, but it's also the most special. There is no tape reveal this time, but it's rather satisfying to see me separate the paper from the block too. See you in the next video. Peace!